55 playoff week action. The Eagles will be in action on Saturday against the Giants in the divisional round. You've got Mac, Rocky Raccoon, and now Chris Franklin joining us. One quick note for guys on the stream. I got to give Dax a heads up. Holla. He wanted me to do a Yo Adrian because I'm resembling Rocky right about now at the end of the fight against one of the all-time great fighting scenes. No, just had some things I had to deal with for surgery and the repercussions thereafter. Franklin, how ugly am I?
I just want to know when's your next fight in Vegas. I'll go out there. I'll be part of your crew that walks up to the ring. That's all I want to know. I can do that.
My cut man. I trust you to be my cut man. Are you
in? Unless you want to have look like all of a sudden razor marks everywhere, like it was a bad shaving mark. Are you sure you want me to do that? I don't know.
Yeah, I got faith in you, Franklin.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, cut me, Chris, cut me.
Oh gosh. Yeah, all those things we bet. Yeah, listen. I have a hard time. I have to go to the bar. I have a bad time shaving, so I don't know if you want me to do that. I mean, if you want to look like you have like folds everywhere, go ahead for it. Otherwise, nah.
Good enough. Here's what I need from you first. You need to give us the definitive number because we're all speculating as to what Jalen Hurts will be playing at on Saturday. We saw what he played at last week. No one truly affixed the number to it. He's now got 13 more days of rest to get better and be ready. I know we still have 5 days before the game, but give us your best case scenario, best guess scenario. If Jalen Hurts at his tippy top this year was 100%, pick whichever game you think he was the best in as he was playing on an MVP type level. If that's 100, where's Jalen going to be at Saturday for the Giants?
All right, I'm using this based off of what I've heard from people, what I've seen from him himself in these last couple weeks, and then just overall looking back. I'd probably say we see about like a 75 to 80. I don't think you're going to see a 100% one because that I think by now, originally I was told like it's a grade 1. If it's still bothering him, the fact that they're worried about his shoulder and limited him last week with that one day, even though he threw the following one, I think he's going to be somewhere around 75, 80%. And the biggest test for me is going to be how well that shoulder holds up when they run, because they're going to run them again, because that's where their offense is really, truly successful. And after looking at the way that, he took a couple of those hits against the Giants, the first time in his last start, I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, you know what? He'll probably be about 80, get some runs in, and you just got to hope that it's not too bad. He doesn't suffer another hit like he did in Chicago.
If he's only 75 or 80, like you said, sorry, John, does that open the door for a lesser talented team like the Giants to come into Philadelphia and beat the Eagles?
I would have thought so, but looking at the way, and it's more of an intangible thing as well, too. I still think the Eagles have a better roster top to bottom. I think the Eagles still have a better roster. Giants come in with a little momentum, but when you look at the way, I think yesterday was their Super Bowl. I truly believe it because nobody really doubted them. If the minutes is granted, it was the Vikings. I think a lot of people picked the Vikings. I picked the Giants to win that game, but yeah, look at this. I think that was such an emotional high for them. They're coming here on a road against a team that is very familiar with them. So yeah, even with 80% Jalen Hurts, I think the Eagles will still win this game. I think at least.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good point, Chris, because you have to go on the road. You start with an emotional win, then you got to go back on the road, and even though it's close, it's not a difficult road trip, but it's a road trip nonetheless. It's tough to get up emotionally for 2 consecutive weeks. That's why it's so difficult for teams that have to go on the road in the playoffs. But with Jalen, I think you're right. He's not going to be 100%. We know that. We know he's going to fight through pain. To me, it's not about that. It's about, do the Eagles try to protect him? If the Eagles try to protect him, I think there might be some issues. If they say, you know what, this is the playoffs, we got nothing to save you for, zone reads back in the equation, then I don't think they have a problem. Do you think they're in week 18 mode where they take the zone read mechanics out of the offense, or they say, nope, this is the postseason, we got the whole playbook?
I think is if the first 15 plays, I think they'll try to protect it within the opening script with those first 15 plays where they say, you know what, we'll roll them out instead of using zone read, and it'll use a little bit more elements. But if that doesn't start to work, then all bets are off, because the last thing you want to do is give the Giants any hope going into this game, thinking they can hang around more and more. I mean, although we've seen so many comebacks, including the Jaguars this last week, this is a game where you want to get up early and assert yourself, say, hey, you know what, that last game, Week 18, wasn't this Eagles team you think you were going to get, even though you play your backups, and that's what a lot of people I've read about are hanging themselves on. That's going to be outcome of the game. It's going to be like that. But I think you'll see the opening script's going to be more about protecting them at first, getting a good read of what that Giants defense is doing, and then if they see like it's a little sluggish or they're not hitting on all cylinders, say, you know what, Jalen, just do your thing, get us out of here, and then let's go to the NFC Championship game if that's the case.
Both you and Ed Kratz went down similar roads in the question we asked about how the offense is going to look out of the gate, saying, well, maybe not right away that they go back to the Eagles offense that we saw that got them out to the undefeated start. But at some point, here it comes. Wouldn't you want to get that underway like as soon as possible? That means if you win the coin flip, you actually say, come on, give me the ball. Let me get the ball first. Let me play my rope-a-dope against you with Jalen Hurts, and then we start our true offense, and then we run you off the field. Please tell me there's a chance that Nick Sirianni will say, I'll take the ball rather than defer on the opening kickoff.
Nah, they're defer. This team, I will say this team, it seems like
Damn it! It's never going to happen, is it?
No, because it's as weird as it sounds. Defensively, I know I was talking about offense. Defensively, it seems like this team is a little bit better in the second half. When they this team makes the adjustments they have to do the second half, and I can see them coming out where it's like, you know what? Yeah, if it's too close to that one, they'll come out and do a reset. So I don't think this team is going to take the ball on the first one. It'll definitely be a surprise if they do, because they're not using that. But no, I don't think they're going to go right away from that. And we've seen this in the past when the Eagles have been sluggish. Look at the Colts game. Look at some of these other games when the Eagles have been sluggish, throwing the ball, can't move the ball downfield. All of a sudden, Jalen takes over with his legs, and then they move the offense down that way too. So I think that's the way they're going to go.
I think the Eagles, last year in the playoffs, that was a legitimate criticism. Like last year, they were a different team. They weren't equipped to play with Tampa Bay. You should try to shorten the game. This season, this team is rightfully haughty. They think they're the best team in football. They should think they're the best team in football. They played like it, at least when the starting quarterback is out there. They're not afraid of anybody. You take the football when you want to shorten the game, when you're playing Kansas City, when you're playing Buffalo. The Eagles aren't afraid of anybody. And why should they be afraid of anybody? I'm shocked the fans are afraid of the New York Giants. I say it all the time. I'm sure you've heard, Chris. I don't know if you have heard, but if you haven't, it's tough to beat a team 3 times, Chris Franklin. I don't know if you've heard that. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I tried to take myself off of Twitter this week. I'm like, I got a weekend off. Let me try to stay away. But then all of a sudden, that didn't happen. I was like, let me check this out. And then after that game, when they got the Giants, I was like, oh my goodness, no team ever beat the win, and nobody can do this 3 times. No. It's one of those things you just have. I look at it as one of those things like, if you're confident in your team, if you're confident in your roster, you're confident in your scheme, there's nothing really to worry about until probably maybe the Super Bowl. I really think when you look at the 49ers are the only team, I think, when you look at what everything they have, they're the only team that I really think they can match up well, only because of the scheme they have offensively. I think the Eagles the offense can match up well against the 49ers defense. So unless the 49ers are one of the AFC teams that are out there, just seeing if they win those games and get that far to the Super Bowl, there's no real team that really think it poses a threat to the Eagles right now. And it's all about a confidence thing. I know it's Philadelphia, history of Philadelphia. Trust me, growing up in this area all the time. Well, everything's lined up perfectly. Oh wait, the Buccaneers in 2-2. Oh, everything's lined up perfectly. Oh wait, the Carolina Panthers.
9 Buccaneers. Yeah, I can't waste my time worrying about the Buccaneers or the Giants we'll see how it shakes out. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised that people look at this team and the way they performed and are worried about playing the Giants a third time. I mean, I said, and Jody will tell you, this is my preferred matchup. And it was kind of opposite. because Seattle's, the same. Basically, they're the same. They're, borderline playoff teams from a talent level, and the Eagles should, beat either of those teams like a drum. But I thought the familiarity helped a little bit. That's why I thought Seattle would be a tad tougher. I guess everybody else goes in the other direction.
Well, also look at the recent history with this team against. Granted, I know Russell Wilson's not there, but look at just the overall recent history against Seattle. They have a really good. You don't know if you'd have Devonta Maddox back right this week if you did
Yeah,
play
they
him.
have
So
more
you have to
weapons too. That
Yeah,
was the other reason. Yeah,
so
they have more
that's why I
weapons.
think this worked out way better for the Eagles when it came to Giants. And it's just also I just look at that team. Do you think Daniel Jones can win in the playoffs against this team? And it all comes down to quarterback. You think I'd rather take a 80% Jalen Hurts over a fully healthy Daniel Jones any day of the week. Personally, I think even if he's playing with a lot of confidence, I just look at
And
that
he's
like,
playing well, Daniel Jones. You got to
yeah.
give him credit. He's playing well now against a very bad defense. That might be the worst defense in the NFL. Very good offense in Minnesota, but very bad defense.
See how key are Eagle linebackers in this upcoming game? Because once again, Daniel Jones showed his ability to run the football. He's not afraid to pull it down. They're not afraid to call direct running plays for him. And his ability to make plays with his legs was a big part of the Giant win yesterday, which means for me, the linebackers are key. They're going to have to be able to both come up, stop the run for Saquon Barkley, but also do a little coverage and have knowledge as to where Daniel Jones is and finish with tackles. You got faith in the Eagle linebacking core that they can slow down Daniel Jones, who's become a big part of the Giants' offensive weapons.
Yeah, and I think it's the main thing you have to do as well. So you have to mix the coverage. Basically the one thing I'm really going to be watching as well too is when they go into that dime when they have Kaiser White back as the linebacker, as the lone linebacker. Are they going to use him as a spy on Daniel Jones? And then how you mix up that look as well too? Do you throw maybe I don't know, maybe throw a corner at a nickel guy or one of your defensive safeties on them like to do that as well too? Like you throw Reed Blanchard, you throw Kayvon Wallace there, I say that, but yeah, you throw him to like one of those guys. You got to mix up I'm worried about when there's a lot of space because when you look at the Giants receiving core, I mean, Darius Slayton, to me personally, I feel that Darius Slayton would be the one that I'm really looking at. Like, but he doesn't interfere. But when you have James Bradbury and Darius Slay, it doesn't really interfere. So their wide receiving core is nothing to write home about. It's nothing that's potent, like say, like we talked about with Seattle Seahawks. But it's enough space to spread that defense out and leave those draw lanes and those zone reads roll around. So that's the area I'm looking at for it. And I think Kaiser White, if he's in that dime look, that's where I think he can handle his own. But it's gonna be a team. This is gonna be a game where you cannot miss tackles at all, and that's where the key thing I'm looking at right now. You can't miss tackles.
Yeah, I'm worried about the tackling thing versus San Francisco because they have Debo and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk. You better tackle those guys because that 7-yard Brock Purdy pass turns into 70 real quick with Debo Samuel. But don't want to get a step ahead. I do want to give credit for Isaiah Hodgins because he's been really impressive since they plucked him off the Buffalo practice squad. But, Darius Slay and James Bradbury, as you mentioned, that's a lot different than a 72-year-old Patrick Pederson and Duke Shelley. So I think the Eagles are better equipped to shut down the Giants passing game. And then I think it's kind of takes care of itself. If you have no threat throwing the football, then you can really, really focus on Daniel Jones and the zone read stuff.
Yeah, and then I think this team, when you look at that, when they're in their base defense, I think they've shown, at least in the first game, I look at it as an outlier now against the Giants, but you've shown like they can, well, basically, I'll start to say, just to restart this way. I think they can handle Saquon Barkley overall with just that when they go to that 5-man front and they can stop it that way too. The only other thing I'm worried about is when it comes to the play action, if they get that rolling, they start going with the play action and they start sucking those safeties up a little bit, and then they get somebody behind them. Maybe that's the only thing I'd probably work. But I think they can handle. It's all about just stopping Daniel Jones and his legs. I think right now, I think they can handle Saquon Barkley when they take that team approach or defensively.
How often do you think they're going to be in the 5-man front? And I know that's a tough question to answer at this time of the week. We got all week to figure it out, but that's going to be a key decision. does Gannon push those right buttons on Saturday against the Giants?
If I'm doing that, I'm starting every first. I know it'd be predictable, but I'm starting every first down with it. I think when you start to see teams get a little bit more, start really getting running when they switch back to the 4-man front on first down. I think the 5-inch run when you have Linval Joseph playing, that is. I know he looked a little hobbled the last couple of weeks, like slowed down a little bit, and saw one time limping on the sideline, whatever. I don't know if that is affecting him. It's anything that's effective long term, but you start looking at them overall. I like that 5-man front especially against this Giants team, because I think it forces them to bring in another tight end a little bit, or if they want to try to break well and try to spread them out, good luck trying to do that. But I think that's the key thing. I've started every first down and just say, okay, we're putting our 5 best defensive linemen out there, beat us and try to wear us down. And I think just they play gap thing, they can stop Saquon Barkley. Period.
Yeah, people that watch this show know my thought on that. I mean, that's what makes the Eagles different than the Chargers or the Vikings or the 70 other teams that run this stupid scheme, which I don't like. But they can bury the fronts very effectively. And when they stop you and turn 1st and 10 into 2nd and long, 3rd and long, known pass, as Jonathan Gannon likes to say, then you let the dogs loose, and that's where you get 70 sacks, and that's kind of what's happened throughout the season. I think that Linval Joseph pickup, and people hate when I say it, even Jordan Davis, before the injury, people forget before the injury, he was starting to come on. You need that player in this defense. You need that player. The Chargers don't have it. They had it a little bit with Linval. The Vikings don't have it. The Eagles have it. And it's a big thing, even though it doesn't show up on the stat sheet.
Yeah, and and that's a crazy thing. You look at Dominic Sue. I mean, we've barely talked about him in the last couple. He's got his impact. Basically, he's playing more of a role play. Like, hey, I'm going to try to take up 2 offensive linemen and let's set up these other edge rushers. Playing that role, but he's doing it effective enough. And when you look at that, and you get the real pressure. You can't run up the middle, and you're forcing teams to go on the edge in the pursuit. I'll take that any day, because I think as long as you play contain, you can do it the right way. And so, yeah, the 5-man, I would definitely use it early and often. And I think they can have some success with it against this Giants offensive line, especially on the side of Evan Neal. Like, I think they could, even if they wanted to pass rush, the Giants decide they want to pass out of that.
Yeah,
I think
the Giants, Chris, they're going to be a problem in like 2 years. But, when Kayvon Thibodeau starts to get his feet underneath him and Evan Neal, those are really, really talented guys. But, they're going through those. Jim Schwartz used to call them startup costs, those rookie startup costs. When they start to get it, they're gonna be a problem, the Giants, in a couple of years. But luckily, Saturday's Saturday, not a couple of years.
All right, CF. I think a key in this game, and it may be something that we don't even get a chance to deal with, is going to be whether Avante Maddox plays or not. The Eagles are 1-2 in their last 3 games, and their 1 win was not awe-inspiring over the Giants. And Avante Maddox didn't play in any of those 3 games. I think his importance to this defense is being undersold. And Gardner Johnson did a nice job dropping down and filling in for him better than Josiah Scott did. But I want Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back at safety, where he might be able to come up with a big pick that could turn the game on Saturday. Are the Eagles going to play it closer to vest? Are you going to have no clue as to whether Maddox can play? Do you think they'll come out and tell you earlier in the week there's no Avante Maddox? What are the chances he actually plays for the Eagles on Saturday?
That's been one of the tougher ones for me to try to get a straight answer on. I can't, like, he saw without the move, then you see him. I'm not sure if he's going to play. I have no clue on that one. I'm trying to get somebody to tell me that. But you start to see, I think, in that Cowboys game early on, you saw what he brings to this defense. I mean, not only did you see him as a blitzer, not only you see him as a good run stuffer, he's obviously a good cover guy on the inside, and you don't have to, shade a safety over toward his side or start to rotate the coverage over to try to shore up that spot when you got a good receiver moving into the slot. So, I mean, if they get him back, it's very, very key. I don't know if I had to get this completely all speculation. This is nothing that I want to. I'd probably say it's 40%. I wouldn't count on it, but on this team, you've heard when it comes to injuries, also like, he's put a 21-day window open and he's running around now again. Oh, great. Something like that. But yeah, we see how important it is. I think Chauncey Gardner, for now, at least against this Giants team, I think it can hold you over. you're going to need them against the 49ers.
Yes.
Bar none.
Yes.
You're going to need them against them because
Yeah.
we just have too many guys to go that way too. Even if it's the Cowboys, I doubt they're going to beat them on the Cowboys or the Bucks. Who I doubt they're going to go out there and beat whoever wins tonight. But yeah.
Ultimately, I do think it's going to be Eagles 49ers, and it's going to be very important to have Avante back for that game. So I think that would be more of my focus, and it's a concern. It would be a big concern in that game because all of a sudden, I think you're right. If you have Chauncey playing that hybrid role, he can play safety and base and then go down in the slot. Have Reed Blankenship come in. You're fine against the Giants. Against the 49ers, I don't know. I don't know about that. That could be an issue. But that's in the future. I did want to talk about Doug a little bit. Doug Pederson, third largest comeback in NFL postseason history. Another feather in his cap. In a lot of ways, I want to workshop this with you, Chris. I think it's the coaching version of the Stephon Diggs trade. They didn't trade, obviously, but from the perspective of, it's very rarely when these things work out. And the Bills got Diggs, who's tremendous, and the Vikings got Jefferson, who's tremendous. The Eagles got Nick Sirianni, who's tremendous, and the Jags got Doug Pederson, who is tremendous. There's always acrimony in any divorce. You heard some of those whispers. Doug can't do this. Doug can't do that. Doug's pretty good, isn't he?
He's all right. I mean, I remember my first season covering this beat was that 2020 year, and he looked like he was just frustrated as the year. It really took his toll. And I think
the COVID year, he's not because he's a people guy. I think Zoom and MS Teams killed him. Yeah. I think that killed him. Really, the pandemic year.
And when you look at the way that you got to give him credit for what he did with Jacksonville. I think the Eagles needed somebody who was just like him in a way that I'm not using the word because I know he uses a lot when they're connected. I'm not using that word, but he's somebody who's a player's coach in a way. Somebody but it can still be a disciplinarian at the time as well, to not let them basically run the lunatics run the asylum. So I look at the guy. I think it worked out perfectly for the Eagles when he got Sirianni. But I think whoever went to take that Jacksonville job was going to look a lot better than Urban Meyer because that was just horrible.
Yeah.
But to have get an experienced coach to rally those young guys around, they need some direction because you lost a year for a lot of those young players there. And you need somebody who can not only basically relate to them in a way, being a player, but somebody who can show them, hey, this is how you win the thing. And I think when you look at what Doug did, to me, Dable and Doug are tied for Coach of the Year, but I look at the accomplishment. Doug won the division, and Dable's a wild card team. Granted, against the Eagles and that thing, but Doug won the division. So to me, Doug is the Coach of the Year. I think when everything is said and done.
But you're right. It's fair to say the phrase was never more fitting. There was only one direction to go, but up from Jacksonville last year. So Doug did have that going for him, but he's done a phenomenal job. I need a prediction out of you, Chris Franklin. Will it be you or one of your Eagle fellow beat reporters who asks Nick Sirianni this week, what level is Jalen Hurts at in his superhuman healing? He's gone there a couple of times, and and then he was in so much pain. Jalen said it, and the coach said it. But we've been told he was basically superhero level healing. Did that kick in? Will that kick in this week? Because I think it decides the game on Saturday.
I think. I still laugh at that when it was funny, but I'm
not like the rest of us humans. Okay, Coach.
From the planet Krypton, Jalen Hurts came by and was adopted by the Hurts net. But I'm looking at. Somebody's going to ask it. That's the phone rings now. Somebody's going to ask it, so it's not going to be me.
Maybe that's Coach. He's going to tell you, yeah, go ahead and answer that question. You asked that question. You about super healing powers.
That's not the famous phone, is it, Chris? Nick made your phone famous.
No, it's not this. I got this one right here. It's not that one at all. No, it's not that. Oh, that was fun. But no, I'm looking at. Somebody's going to ask it. I have an idea. It might be one of the Philadelphia papers that asked that. It might be the same. Well, not. that reporter who asked that's not usually on the Zooms, but somebody's asking that, and it ain't gonna be me though, because like, all right,
Maybe off the record. Maybe off the record, but
yeah, I was like, yeah, but I doubt it.
maybe in a nicer way. All right, my at C Franklin News. First off, follow Chris on Twitter. Read him at nj.com. South Jersey Times, Lehigh Valley Live, Times of Trenton. He's all over the place. So wherever you are, you can read Chris Franklin. And he does a tremendous job. Biggest fear coming up on Saturday night. I'm going to give you 3 potential. I'll throw 4. Daniel Jones having a similar game as against the Vikings, throwing the ball. Dual threat, Jalen Hurts to put it. Saquon Barkley, ultimate talent. Dexter Lawrence dominates in the middle of that line defensively, or the fact you're going to have to be up all Saturday night. At least it's Saturday night.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I'm losing Saturday night. That's why. Sure, that's the thing. I'm losing Saturday night. Like I'm going to have much fun. This is going out. No, that's the main thing.
Going to be up all night.
Usually if it's 2 or 3 in the morning, I'm having a very good time, and I'm not usually covering in the press box. No offense being with you guys, but yeah. But nah, I'm looking at if that Saturday night's number 1. But I think when it goes to the Giants players themselves, I think it's more the Daniel Jones thing. That's the only thing they got. I think they handle Barkley. I think the Kelsey will give them all the right protections, and I think the guards will handle themselves very well. But it's definitely Daniel Jones taking off. But yeah, I'm missing my Saturday night. It'd be like the Cowboys and have a keg of beer in there. That'd be great.
I got news for both you guys. Yeah. Suck it up. Do you see this thing? I'm here today, okay? Every single Saturday night, I'm on the air till 2 o'clock in the morning. So both of you guys suck it up and get the job done like the Eagles should on Saturday night. Chris, great stuff. As always, my friend, go see who called. Check the answering machine. Hopefully it is Nick, and text Johnny Mac if it wasn't. Say, shoot, he was listening. He told me I better not ask that question McDonald asked you to ask. We appreciate you coming on board. Chris, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you again next week, big guy.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one now.
That's Chris Franklin here with us on Birds 365. All right, Johnny Mac, Jody Mac, coming back. You know what we're going to do?